Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Eric and you're watching the Celebrate Sausage series. We're about 2/3 of the way into the series so far. If you're new to this series, I'm going to put a playlist at the end of this video right about here so that you can go back to the beginning and get caught up. Right now we've got some really amazing giveaways happening, and so check the description box or the pinned comment so that you can keep up to date with what's being given away, and hopefully you can enter and win some really cool prizes. In today's episode, we are going to be making some South African charcuterie. I love South African charcuterie. Well, today we're going to be making the South African Russian sausage, also known as Russians. This sausage was brought to South Africa over 100 years ago from Russian immigrants, more than likely of Jewish descent. And over the years, there's been a lot of variations to this sausage, primarily in the protein department. So what you choose to use for the protein of this sausage is completely up to you. Originally, it was probably an all-beef sausage, but now you can find beef and pork, all pork, you can find game meat, or different variations of it. The spices, that's where we're going to get our classic South African Russian flavor, a little heavier on the coriander and the black pepper. Let's make the South African Russian. We've got a little pork fat and some pork. This is a 100% pork sausage. I'm going with 20% fat for these Russians. You could go 25% or even 30% if you want to boost the fat content. And as far as the pork goes, I'm using pork shoulder because it was on sale, but if you want to use lean pork, loin, if you want to use a little belly, and substitute some of the fat for the belly, not a problem. Our pork fat has already been cut up, and so now all we have to do is process the pork. And notice that it is semi-frozen. Cuts very easy like this. It also reduces the amount of time that I have to chill it before we grind it. Cut your meat and fat into pieces that are adequate for your grinder. If you want to do long strips, you got a number 32 grinder, that's fine. I like the knife work, so I cut my meat and fat up into cubes just like that. And we are done with the processing part. We're not making a lot. We're making about 1 kilo today. And this is still partially frozen, so I'm just going to set it to the side while we take a look at our spices. For these South African Russians, this is what we're looking at. We've got a little salt, cure number 1, coarsely ground black pepper. Very important ingredient in this sausage, as well as the ground coriander. We also have some garlic powder, some ground ginger, onion powder, cardamom, and then of course we're going to be adding savory. Boost that flavor, boost that umami. Check the description box below if you don't already have some. We are adding a binder to the tune of about 3%, and I'm using potato starch, and then we've got 10% worth of liquid. In our case, we're going to be using water, but you could use a chicken stock or beer or whatever you want. How do we grind the South African Russian? Well, we're going to grind it a couple different ways. To start off, we're going to use a coarse plate, and then we're going to come back with a more of a medium plate. I wouldn't say fine. So grind everything on a 10 millimeter plate, and then take half of that mixture and then regrind it on a 6 millimeter plate. Meat is still very partially frozen. I like to target under 34 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are 32, let's see here, 31, piece of fat, you got to check the fat, 31, 30, okay, not a problem. Let's get to grinding. There we go, that's the stuff. We've got half of it 10 millimeter, and then the other half a double grind finishing on a 6 millimeter plate, and this is what it should look like. And that should give us a very interesting texture with this Russian sausage. All right, we now need to get everything mixed up. I'm making a small batch, so I'm using a KitchenAid mixer. This is perfect for anything less than really about 5 pounds. I'm going to add our spices. Right now we're mixing with the paddle attachment on the number 1 setting, so the lowest this mixer will go. Once those spices get incorporated, we're going to come back with our liquid. And what we're looking for here is that classic sausage texture. We want everything to be well bound together. The salts, all the different spices are going to be interacting with the meat and the proteins, and you should end up with a very sticky farce. Sticky enough to when you grab a small handful, it should stick to the underside of your hand when you turn your hand upside down. Just like that. In this case, our sausage is done, very sticky. I'm loving the way that it looks. We need to get it into a sausage casing. And I'm going to be using a dedicated sausage stuffer from the sausage maker with the 3/4 inch horn. That's going to be perfect for the 29-32 millimeter casing. I highly recommend using a dedicated sausage stuffer when you make sausage.
your end result is going to always be better than if you were to use your grinder or a food processor to stuff your sausage into the casing. These are the casings that we got them from the sausage maker. And honestly, you could use whatever casing you have on hand. You could do 33, 35, that'd be fine. I probably wouldn't go 40 millimeter, but that's just me. Lube up the horn with a little water, get a little water in the casing, and thread it onto that horn. And now it's time to stuff it. When it comes to stuffing your sausage, you can apply this to most sausage recipes. You're going to want to put nice, even pressure with your thumb and your forefinger at the end of the horn. The trick here is to fill your casing tight enough so you have a nice, plump sausage. If you fill it too much, the casing will rupture. And if you don't fill it enough, your sausage will be quite flaccid. This little technique takes a little bit of practice, but after enough times, you'll get it. We're going to give it a little pinch. Now right here, if I can pinch it comfortably without having the sausage give me that sensation that it's going to explode in my hand, then I've stuffed it perfectly. But if I go to pinch it and it feels like it's going to rupture, I've overstuffed it, and in that case, I may not want to make links. The method I'm using here to link these sausage is the front to back method. Every link is going to get rotated in opposite directions. So this link, I'm going to rotate 3 times towards me or back, and this link, I'm going to rotate it 3 times away from me or forward. So we do a front to back, and once we're done, and our sausage is completely linked, we want to poke out any air pockets. This helps the casing stick to the sausage a little bit better by not allowing fat to pull where air pockets exist. So just get rid of the air pockets. And this is now going to go into the fridge overnight. Letting this hang out in the fridge overnight is going to allow all the spices to come together. These little points right here are going to dry up, so it's going to give us nice, beautiful individual links, and it's going to allow the cure to do its job. So into the fridge it goes, and the next day, time to cook. Our South African Russians look great. The twists between the sausage are all dried up. So if you want, you can go ahead and separate them now. And that dried up twist, think of it kind of like a belly button. Well, that's going to keep that sausage from pouring out when it starts to expand during the cooking process. I didn't necessarily need to do that because we're going to be smoking them, so I could have just hung them. But in this particular case, we're going to go horizontal in the smoker. And these have been sitting out at room temperature, but notice how 1/2 of them is still a little on the glistening side while the other is more matte. I want the sausage to completely dry out before we begin the process of cooking. That's going to increase the snappability of our sausage. We've got a special meat probe from Smoking It that we're going to be using to monitor the temperature of our sausage. Beautiful little meat probe. The one that the smoker originally came with was a little large, so I like that smaller, more compact version. During this drying cycle, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the smoker, cut the convection fan to about 50%. If you don't have convection, you could put a fan in front of your sausage and just let it dry out that way. And while that's happening, let's take a look at our programming. So this is a digital smoker from Smoking It, and I'm going to show you what we've got this smoker programmed to. It's going to be amazing. So step 1, that's where we're at now, 100 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour. That's the drying phase. Step 2, the smoker is going to bump up to 125 Fahrenheit, and it's also going to hang there for 1 hour. This is all happening automatically. We've basically programmed it before the cook starts. Step number 3, the smoker is going to bump up to 150 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to cook there for 1.5 hours. And then it's going to go to step number 4, where the smoker is going to finish at 170, and this is where that probe comes in. It's going to cook until the internal temperature of our sausage gets to 145 Fahrenheit. Once that happens, it's going to go to step number 5, where the smoker temperature is going to come down to 145 and hover there for 1 hour, and that's mainly so I don't burn my sausage in the event that I'm not home, or I want to just pasteurize. Normally at that final step, I'm only leaving the sausage in there for no more than about 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, it's basically more of a safety net. If you don't have a convection smoker, the recipe link in the description box below will have different ways you can cook this sausage for great results. We're lighting up the cold smoke generator to begin applying smoke at 125 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can see that convection moving all that smoke around in there. The thing about convection cooking is these cook incredibly fast. So if you're not using a convection smoker, it may take you a few extra hours to get to your target internal temp. For me, I want to say with convection, we're looking at maybe a total of 3 hours actual cook time, which is incredibly fast. Before, I want to say it took us somewhere around 5 to 5.5 hours to accomplish the same result. So loving the convection smoker from Smoking It. Check the link in the description box below if you want information. Look at those sausage. Great color. beautiful plump finish. One thing to note, if you're cooking sausage and they are shriveled up, you know what I'm saying, all wrinkly looking when you pull them off of the smoker or the pit or whatever, something went wrong during the process, and that generally has to do with fat smear. This is what your sausage should look like, and right now we're just cooling it down to below 100 degrees Fahrenheit in a water bath. After that happens, these are going to bloom on the countertop at room temperature for a couple hours, at which point we're going to heat some up and give them a taste. Loving the way these turned out. Great color. I want to say I used a combination of hickory and applewood. Casing is nice and tight, which generally means we're going to get a beautiful snappy bite. Slice looks really great. Nice smooth slice. Oh yeah, look at that. Very juicy. Oh wow. Okay. I can't wait to dive in. So you know what? Let's just give it a bite.
South African Russian sausage. Just what a sausage, right? Beautiful finish. Great color. Oh, that's going to be a fun sausage to bite into. Oh, wow. It smells incredible. And I'm loving that, grind 50% of it a little bit finer. We end up with a very interesting texture here in the sausage. Super juicy. It's got a nice springy bounce to it. Okay. Black pepper, coriander, definitely coming through. That smoke, beautiful presence there. All right, going in. Wow, that is so different than the other South African sausages that we've made. But just as good. That is delicious. A lot of really good things going on in this sausage. The texture, for starters, you got that coarse ground, fine ground combination. Gives you a really interesting mouthfeel. Super juicy. Obviously the casing super snappy, very flavorful. The coarsely ground black pepper adds this nice spicy element. The coriander is working really well with the pork. Not as strong as some of the other South African sausages that we've eaten, but just incredible flavor. Almost like a nutty, slightly floral element going on with it. It's kind of reminiscent of a smoked ham. Wow. Very tasty sausage, seasoned well. I think if you make this, you'll be very happy with it. The South African Russian sausage. Check the description box for a link to today's recipe. And if you have any questions about the process, drop them in the comment section. If this is the first video that you've seen from our channel, we want to say welcome. We are uploading a brand new sausage making video every day through the month of October. And if you're not currently subscribed, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. You'll find a playlist of all the episodes that have already aired right about here. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye. That is fantastic by itself. I'd love to know what's the most traditional way to eat the South African Russian sausage. Is this a mustard and bun type of sausage? Do you throw it in a plate with cabbage and beans? Let me know in the comment section. See you later.